I just got my new passport in the mail and they changed the gender to male.
No, actually, they corrected the gender to male after you tried to change it to female.
1 in 6 transgender people in America live in states that ban trans people from accessing accurate gender markers on their IDs.
The problem with your argument is it's not a gender marker, it's a sex marker.
Brutal right now, but trans people have always existed and they will forever exist.
I'm not sure why they're trying to spread this hysteria that trans people aren't being allowed to exist, when really all we're saying is we don't have to see them the way that they see themselves.
And they will never, no matter what happens, take trans joy away.
Someone needs to share that memo with the trans people on TikTok because, yeah.
Trans people are not invisible.
Oh, we know they're not invisible. We see them.
Trans people deserve love.
Seems to me like the trans community needs to love itself.
The queer community deserves to be lifted up.
Funny you would say the queer community needs to be lifted up when I think everybody else in the LGBT community, according to Donald Trump, the LGB community would say the queer community is the entire problem and the last thing we need to do is lift them up.
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, so you may recognize this person from the last video I did. She is apparently dealing with even more fallout from Trump's executive orders, so we're gonna go over that. But before we get to that, I wanted to mention the 2 celebrities you saw right before, if you aren't familiar, were Chappell Roan and Lady Gaga. And I want to talk about them just super quick because one of the problems that we're having in the community right now is we have these celebrities and allies encouraging what are the worst part of the community. And if you're a part of this particular community, and I mean the LGBTQ, which people have asked me if I'm going to change my intro to the absolute best LGB comedian in the world, I'm not, for 2 reasons. 1, because it doesn't have the same ring, the same flow, and 2, because that's kind of part of the joke. Because for anybody that's not familiar, I talked about this before, but I originally was America's favorite fag. That's what I was going by. Then YouTube decided to make that hate speech, so I wasn't allowed to use it anymore. So I came up with the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. And a part of that was because I know that the far left LGBTQ people get mad at me because I'm often critical of their antics, like I'm going to be in this video and like I have been in several other videos. But the problem for them is that whether they like it or not, I still am a part of the community because I'm a gay man and I've been out for 30 plus years. So not only am I a part of the community, I can pull rank on a lot of them. So I will not be changing it at this time. If at any point YouTube will let me go back to my original name, I would be happy to. I would love to, but that's more in the hands of YouTube than it is in my own. So what I was saying is celebrities like Gaga and Chappell Roan should really mind their own business, because right now the trans community, or the trans activist I should say, and the queer community really are the source of most of these problems, really are the reason that the LGBTQ community is losing support, rights, privileges, however you want to put it. It's definitely happening, and it is a result of gender ideology and everything that the trans activists and the queer community push. And if you guys don't know or aren't in on it or haven't seen in the comments or haven't been on X, even transsexual people are against the trans activist and the queer community. Now, why would that be when you consider that trans activists are technically there to help out trans people, or that's what it's supposed to be? Why would trans people, transsexuals, the original trans people, be against trans activists? Probably because they're not acting in the best interest of the community. Probably because they're not acting in the best interest of the people that they're actually supposed to be serving. So when we have people like Gaga and Chappell Roan that may consider themselves supporters but aren't really actively in the community and aren't living day-to-day life as an everyday LGBTQ person, I need them to kindly shut up up and stay out of our way so we can correct our own, like I've been trying to say for a long time, and like the rest of the community seems to be catching on and understanding. And some of them have really caught on to the point where they're ready to completely cut them off. A lot of people were very happy about Donald Trump just referring to it as the LGBT community. So many gays, lesbians, and bisexuals are 100% over it. And a lot, I cannot stress this enough, a lot of transsexuals are over it too. So when it comes to these people that are not a part of our community trying to tell us what we need to be doing and trying to direct the general public to be doing something they shouldn't be doing, something they shouldn't be encouraging, that's where it will start to piss me off. And the fact that the woke music industry actually stood up for that really bothers me, because it's like, can you all just stay out of our business and let us handle what we have to handle? And this same thinking that I'm talking about, an extreme ideology that the trans activist as well as the queer community have been pushing, is actually responsible for what this young lady is going through right now in this video we're about to watch. So let's get into it.
In case you're wondering what it's like being transgender under this new administration.
Actually, I'm really not, but if I had to guess from all the crying I'm seeing from the trans and queer community on social media, I would imagine it feels like hearing a whole lot of truth that you're really not ready for.
I just got my new passport in the mail and they changed the gender to male.
Unfortunately for you, I watched your most recent video about this, and they actually didn't change the gender to male. What happened was you had a passport issued to you when you were younger that said male on it. Then after Trump's inauguration, when he said that he was going to put an end to gender ideology, you saw in an article that this would affect passports, so you went ahead and tried to beat the buzzer and change your gender on your passport. So then when the passport office went ahead and looked at your previous records, they corrected it from female, which you were trying to change it to male, and left it at male and sent you your passport. So they did not, in fact, change your gender. They corrected it. And I will say it louder for the people in the back. It is not a gender marker. It is a sex marker. And sex is immutable. Even by trans talking points until maybe the last year or so, the thinking was always gender is a social construct where sex is biology. So in other words, you can change the way society sees you, but not your biological makeup. I hope that helps.
Because of Donald Trump.
It actually wasn't because of Donald Trump. It is because you're male. And last I checked, Donald Trump did not invent or discover sex and biology.
In case y'all want proof, there's my picture. Very cutty. And yeah, there's that big ugly M. Yay.
Coincidentally, that's what the ladies say when you come barreling into the women's bathroom. They're like, yeah, there's a big ugly M. Yay. All right, to be 100% honest, just joking. You're not ugly, but you definitely are an M. And to get back to the point that I've stated a couple of times already, if you look just above that big ugly M, you will clearly see it says sex, not gender.
Now, mind you, all of my other documents are updated to female, and I've been fully surgically updated to female.
First off, you can't be surgically updated to female. You can be surgically updated to display the physical characteristics of a female, but your chromosome structure and biology will always be male. And as far as your documents go, this is where I'll make my point about how the trans and queer community messed this up. For years and years and years, people have been able to change their documents in order to reflect their gender rather than their sex. I have many friends that have done it over the years, but it really was meant for an extremely small part of the population that suffered from gender dysphoria, had been diagnosed by a medical professional, and were living full-time as the other gender. And then gender ideology and self-ID came along, and at that point, it just became a fun thing for people to do. Suddenly, you didn't even have to suffer from gender dysphoria anymore. You just had to say you felt kind of funny, or you didn't feel like you were either male or female. And then people started choosing to put an X because they didn't identify as male or female, which is not possible. You are biologically male or female. And then trans people started to invade women's spaces and women's sports, which I put the trans in quotes because these were in a lot of cases people that just self-ID, or AGPs, otherwise known as autogynephiles, who see it as a fetish. So these people started invading women's spaces, and instead of the trans and the queer community saying, hey, you guys can't be doing that, we shouldn't be doing that, instead the trans and the queer community went with, she's a woman just like you're a woman. The problem was, in a lot of cases, these people not only were not women, they still were fully intact males. So you had fully intact males, as in they still had their junk, if anybody isn't familiar with what I mean by intact, and they were going into women's spaces, and in some cases being creeps. And then when it came to sports, you had genetic males taking away scholarships, medals, and opportunities from actual women. And rightfully, women said no. People in general said no. Donald Trump became our president, and now here you are. And really, the fact that you're referring to yourself as having surgically updated to female might be part of the argument that they make when it comes to actually fighting this, if this makes it to the Supreme Court. Because whether anybody likes it or not, there have to be distinctions between the sexes. Not only for proper identification, medical purposes, and fairness, but also for the safety of women. Before we go any further, I just want to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We just crossed 67,000 subscribers, so we're making good progress. When you hit subscribe, click the bell notifications to make sure you set it to all so you know every time I upload. Now let's get on with this video.
But this is what they had to say. The sex was corrected on your passport application. The changes were made for one of the following reasons: to match our record. I had a passport when I was a kid that I used once.
Yeah, like I already said, they corrected it based on your actual information. The way you said it in the beginning was almost like it had said female and they corrected it to say male, which was not the case. And yesterday, a person in the comments mentioned that she was trans, she was fully passable, had her full change, and all of her documents now said female, and it had been that way for a while, and she was wondering if they were going to make her change it back to male. And I really can't answer that question, but I can tell you that I wish that wasn't the case, because I have so many friends that for years, all of their documents matched the way they outwardly appear, and they weren't doing it just for fun. Really, the reason people used to have their documents match the way they looked wasn't about fooling anybody and wasn't about invading women's spaces. It actually was for safety and employment, because if a person presented as female and then the employer looked at their ID and saw it said male, that would make a problem for them and people would discriminate. Then also when it came to the police, and this is something I've witnessed happen several times in my life. I don't know what it's like now, but when I was younger, I saw more than one of my friends get pulled over for a traffic infraction, and when they got pulled over and the officer saw that their ID said male, the officer was outright disrespectful and in some cases threatening with them. No lie, no BS. I've talked about it on other videos where even I've been threatened by a police officer because I refused to refer to my trans friend as he and him. I had a cop threaten to slam my face on the hood of the cruiser because I would not refer to my trans friend as he and him. So that gives you an idea of the way that trans people used to get treated and why some people would change their documents for safety reasons, and why I consider this to be such a terrible thing that the activist and the queer community have abused this system to a point where now those people are going to suffer the consequences. So in case I haven't made myself clear, I am not happy that this is happening to actual transsexual people, and I really wish that the trans activist and the queer community hadn't pushed it to this point.
So basically, it doesn't matter that all of my other documents say female and that I've had my sex change surgery. If you've had a passport in the past that displays the opposite sex, then they will not honor your gender change. change.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if they eventually change all of your state documents back, or you have to change them back on your own. Because if your passport and your ID don't totally match, you're gonna have real problems traveling.
Now, obviously, I will be seeking legal action.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and predict that you're gonna lose this one, and that's because they will be able to easily prove that the system gets abused. And the trans and the queer community have made that point for them over the last couple of years. So you can try, but I honestly think you're gonna fail. If I were you, I would just leave it alone, at least until Trump's out of office and people have had a chance to cool off and maybe forget a little bit the damage that the trans activists and the queer community have done. And then possibly you'll have a better chance. But I honestly feel in my heart of hearts that if the community pushes it now, you're gonna fail. And not only because of Donald Trump, but because society in general is tired of gender ideology.
My email is in my bio for any experts out there, or you can just DM me on IG. Because look, I am an adult and I have undergone my full medical transition.
Seems like you're working on sound legal logic to me. I mean, you just roll up to the Supreme Court and be like, because look, I am an adult and I have gone through my full medical transition. The problem is factually, you're still not a female. I mean, these people are such buffoons. And if you ever want to prove that you can't change your sex, look at this person. Looks like a woman, still thinks like a man.
There is nothing about me anymore that represents male on the exterior whatsoever. The only thing that them denying to put female on my passport does is put me in danger.
Yeah, I get what you're saying here, but when people abuse the system, that puts actual women in danger. So even though you're trying to tug at our heartstrings and make it seem like we're supposed to feel bad for you because of potential danger you might face, at the same time, you expect us to sacrifice women's safety for your comfort and convenience.
While traveling, that's all it does. I'm in danger now. They are only doing this to scare people like me.
Yeah, I really don't feel like anybody was trying to scare you. And when it comes down to it, I think that you'll end up finding out legally. And trust me, I'm no legal scholar. I looked into a couple of things, though, I will tell you that. And I think that what you will find out in the end is that legally, because we're talking about sex and not gender, it's very important that I stress that. So legally, I think they're just going to enforce it by your biology, which will be indicated by your ID. So if you don't raise any flags and you look like a woman and you're passable enough that nobody has any questions, then you'll be fine. But outside of that, you're going to have to show ID if anybody has suspicions or you're behaving in a suspicious manner, which I was hoping that we'd be able to avoid as a society, but it's looking like that's the way things are going to have to go. And again, it's because the trans activist and the queer community are pushing it.
Because they don't want us in public life. They want us to hide in fear and be scared of them. But trust me, I'm not going anywhere.
And you're really not going anywhere if your ID and your passport don't match. So I believe you when you say that you're not going anywhere.
Trans people have been here and we're staying here, and I will fight this. I'm not scared. I'm not gonna cry. I could still leave the country if I need to, but this saying male is crazy. Look at me, bitch.
That's another one you need to tell the judge. Look at me, bitch.
This is a direct violation of my rights as an American citizen under the Equal Rights Amendment. It's just a violation of my rights in general. I submitted a passport application that was intended to update my gender marker to female. That exact application is still available on the website.
Actually, it's not anymore. A trans person posted about that on X like 2 days after the inauguration, and it doesn't even have the information to change gender anymore.
To update your gender, y'all will honor it. Trust. This is only the beginning, babe. Y'all done pissed off the wrong transformer.
He who laughs last. Okay. All right. Here's the deal. Good luck with your lawsuit. I honestly think that you're going to find out that legally this is exactly the way that should have turned out. And while, like I said, I'm not happy this is happening, at the same time, I really do hope people like you kind of do push it just so you can find out exactly where your place is when it comes to these kinds of things. Because the rest of us are tired of playing this game, just to put it 100% honest. Like, we were all trying to be nice for so long, or at least I know a lot of the people that I know were, and I know I was for a fair amount of the time, trying to be measured, trying to be fair, trying to be cool, trying to be understanding. And you guys just abused it to a point where now this is where you're at. So if you continue to push it legally, I honestly do feel like you're going to find yourself in a situation that you really don't want to be in. And I think it's going to close things off for years and years to come, where if you just held off a little bit and weren't so hot-headed and so out to prove that you were a child that was never told no, I think you would have a better result. And I know she's also got the ACLU involved, but I really don't think that's going to be able to help their case either. Anyway, that's where I'm at on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see a video about the LGB divorcing from the TQ, click the link on your screen. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.